So we're here, we made it, we did it. We're only 20 minutes late, but we've got plenty of time to talk. We've gotten really no back end on this. I think we do a nice 30 minutes discussion. Before we get into it, I've known you for almost 5.5 years now. We originally met through your partner at Bridgeport, Jay McCarthy, close friend, advisor, I would say investor, and one of the biggest supporters of mine. So we love Jay. So big shout out to Jay out there. I remember our first conversations. I think you told me to burn my US passport, move to Singapore, jump head straight into crypto, and the rest will be history. Tell me a little bit,
Well, you're there 1 out of 3.
Yeah. So which one of the 3? Jumping headfirst into crypto, I think, right?
Yes, I think so.
So maybe the other 2 I can figure out at some point. So I remember our first interactions. We spent a lot of time together over the years. Excited to be an advisor on one of your newest projects. But today we're talking about Fellaz. And really, before we get into that conversation, I wanted to hear about your background and why Bridgeport is so excited about Fellaz.
Absolutely. So my background is more institutional and kind of boring in some ways. I've kind of lived all over the world. Started my studies in the US, started in the financial services space, spent 25 years there, starting with options trading in Chicago to helping set up JP Morgan Partners in Asia, and then also running AIG's principal investments. About 10 years ago, the crypto or the blockchain, I would say, bug hit me. I've only been investing in the cryptocurrency space over the last 6 years. But prior to that, what I was really fascinated about was the whole distributed ledger technology and what it actually meant in terms of technology and technology development. So when I started off, obviously coming from the financial services background, you always tend to think, okay, fintech is the most obvious place to be, but we have to understand that it's very regulated. It's dealing with countries' currencies. It's dealing with countries' central banks, and those areas tend to be very sensitive in nature, right? When we started looking at the whole NFT space, when we spoke about this last year, and we kind of touched upon this last year on the NFTs and the gaming, and that actually gave me an interesting.
Crazy. It was before everything got super crazy is when we spoke about it.
So we were talking about this a long time ago, Gabriel, and I remember Gabriel
last year at Techtalia, which Bridgeport sponsored as well, and we had more Zoom conversation. It was all about NFTs.
And you were, and by the way, to your credit, you were way before all of this when we were talking about using unused GPU capacity.
Yeah,
and how you utilize that, right? And that was amazing, right? So just kind of carrying that forward. So sometimes you can have great ideas, but sometimes the ideas may be a little too early for the world to accept. Now, having said that, when the NFT world and when the whole fashion world and e-commerce world and the licensing world and of course all of these things started converging, and people started talking about metaverse. Of course, there was a lot of euphoria, and there is euphoria at one level where you're actually starting to define new use cases, right? So when you're talking about serverless technology, which is another way to say distributed ledger, is another way to say blockchain, right? So you're starting to see these worlds starting to converge, and when these worlds start to converge in a distributed, decentralized way, it actually starts creating new economic models. And right around then, when we were still looking at some of what I would call layer 3, layer 4. So I may refer to this in my conversation a few times. Layer 1, think of it as this infrastructure, right? It's like literally the highways and the bridges. Think of layer 2 as some of the solutions that go in to make that infrastructure better. Layer 3, layer 4 is actually consumer facing, right? So a lot of stuff we talked about, but I had not seen a project like Fellaz where I would actually call it, I think Jack Dorsey called it, or Peter Thiel called it. I can't remember. It was like Web 5.0, which is Web 2.0,
Something like
and
that.
Web
Yeah, yeah.
3.0, right?
Combined.
Something like that, right? But it was basically saying, how can we take real world businesses that actually are sometimes darlings of the private equity industry? Let's take example, ticketing.
Yep.
And ticketing, people go to events, whether they go to events online or offline, tickets are still purchased. There's a certain cost associated tickets. There's a certain a hierarchy to how the selling of the tickets happen. And that to me became interesting, that can you use the blockchain technology, or what I would call a distributed ledger technology, to make the process more efficient, or more cost efficient, and more efficient just generally. So when we looked at Fellaz, being in Asia as Bridgeport Capital, where we are both a fund and investors, but we're also venture builders, the idea was, hey, can we see something? Can we see something that's really developing? And honestly, in Asia, we have a few things, but I will tell you one thing. One thing that we have that we've globally exported, which I am so proud of being in Asia, is K-pop. I mean, literally, it doesn't matter you're in Europe or you're in the US or anywhere. People know K-pop. Do you understand Korean? It doesn't matter. But people know this. And it was just fascinating to me when I saw the Fellaz project. We took it on from not only an investment standpoint, as a venture building standpoint, where I've come in as the interim CEO to get the process started. And one of the most important things that we did, which has been pretty phenomenal, we partnered up with Rakuten, Fundagio, Crypto.com, people who are in the traditional industries, right? Who are amazing in their own right. So it doesn't matter if I mention the name, but think about the best Korean K-pop producer producing a virtual asset called MetaMu, and we launched the NFT, which entitle you to the royalty of that artist, right? So this is where we're going with this, and we've now expanded much further from there.
And so, we think about K-pop being this incredible global phenomenon. How is that going to help, from the Fellaz side, bring out a larger audience and user base for blockchain-enabled, NFT-enabled ticketing? How do you envision that? Because people listen to K-pop, is it that it's a captive audience, or is it more of an audience that wants to engage in this, and they are actually going, and this is a two-part, how do you do that? And do you think they're the ones that are actually going to come up with some really unique use cases that Fellaz can be applied, that can apply to K-pop?
So I'll answer that in two ways, right? One, first and foremost, K-pop is a global phenomenon. So we're in agreement on that, right? The technical team and the management team of Fellaz just happened to start with K-pop, which is a use case, which is an amazing use case, right? I mean, you're hosting Techtalia. Now, I mean, I know why, because I love, fashion and of course European fashion. I mean, but the fact is, Italy is the heart of European fashion, right? Where it comes to ties.
Milan. We're hosting it in Milan this year, and it is the heart of fashion. Yeah.
It's absolutely the heart of fashion, right? Now so what you do is, when you're trying to transform an industry or trying to bring new things, you work with the best, right? If you're in Italy, you're working with the best. We just happen to be in Asia, and if we were to look at art or music or multiple of these genres, but especially the genres that appeal to the Gen Z or the Gen Y, of those demographics, it was K-pop. And people said, okay, you know what? Let's figure out, K-pop is so amazing, even with the language barriers, it has a global reach. Now, can we technically solution for it? Now, what that meant was, artists need something, consumers need something, right? And trying to find that value proposition. And with a amazing use case like K-pop, if you can solution that, that's exactly what we did. And from Asia, now we've now expanded into Japan and into Southeast Asia, now going into Dubai. And the idea is that once you get a format correct, then it becomes replicable and is going global.
Fascinating. So it's following the similar model of K-pop. It's delivering this experience in, I would say, a familiar format of ticketing. Can you give us some, examples beyond sort of ticketing, and how Bridgeport is helping with that, and how, as a venture builder, you guys see the support that you can provide from a global standpoint? Because I know we have attendees here and people here that want that support as well.
No, I really think it's like, I'm sure, and Gabriel, we've known each other for a long time and we've spoken a lot. So I can understand the kind of the profile of the attendees, where they're probably, at the helm of fashion or music or arts or etc. So
Versace, Rosso, we have, Robbie Young.
Hello?
From Manamoka. We have a global attendee, but no, I'm here. We have a global attendee set that are, some of the best, in their field, some of the best in their field.
So in any industry, when innovation happens, right, it goes through certain cycles, right? There's initially the hype cycle, then we regulate, and then we regulate, and then we regulate, and then we regulate, right? So one of the things that we saw with the ticketing business, and I think it's an important use case to just kind of highlight, with the NFTs. So I'll do two very quick use cases. With the NFTs, we started off with moments, and we started off with just art, and we started off with clubs like the Bored Ape Yacht Club or the CryptoPunk Club or the Azukis, etc. Right? So I think if you think about NFTs a little bit beyond just art that most people define it as, it's actually intellectual property, right? It's digitizing intellectually property rights. Now, one of the important things for intellectual property rights is, hey, what is the provenance and what is the attribution? Which means that, if I own it and I forget my MetaMask wallet, I'm just simplifying this, or somebody takes my keys or somebody takes my wallet, which are pseudo-anonymous in nature, how can I legally prove that I actually own it, right? And I think we are trying to solve those issues on a custody standpoint and multiple other standpoints. Now, if you take ticketing as a business, and any business, if you look at, and I think the audience will appreciate it, you will understand where the inefficiencies in that entire demand chain or the supply chain are. So for example, in the ticketing business, the secondary market for the tickets sold for a concert is 2 to 3 times bigger than the original ticket sale, right? Which means that the artist never gets the benefit of that. Number two,
they get screwed.
They get screwed, right? And then number two, we used to have, go to concerts and Led Zeppelin and this and that, and we used to have the tickets, put it on a little tack board, and like, oh my God, I went to this concert, right? But now today, if I can actually have a collectible that's associated with that and create a secondary value to that starts bringing in, multiple new things. And I just want to touch on
I have a question about that. So let's say I have a Led Zeppelin ticket from 1977. Fast forward to today. Can I have a ticket that is maybe from say not Led Zeppelin, let's say a K-pop tour last year? I went to a concert, New York. That ticket, could it unlock new experiences with that NFT? Like not just selling that, not just saying, oh, it's memorabilia. So like we're sitting here, like in the Automobile Club of Milan, you can't see on the walls here. It's a little, I know last weekend was Singapore F1 or the weekend before. So they do Monza. They founded Monza here. But like from the perspective of being able to create new experiences from that single ticket, other than just resale, is so fascinating. To me, that blows my mind that the ticket could enable multiple use cases for multiple people, even if it's sold to a different person or if it's never sold.
And Gabriel, you're hitting on some very interesting points. It's about security and attribution, which I just brought up, right? So for example, if you had bought the ticket to Techtalia, right? Everybody knows, oh, okay, you bought it, but then you gave me that ticket, right? Obviously this was a smaller event, but imagine it was a 50,000 people event. Now I attended it. Last person attending it is the person holding the ticket. So I'm technically anonymous. So from a security standpoint, there is no identity attribution to the ticket itself, right? So when we are talking about the Web 3.0 world, the identity of the individual is becoming important. So for example, Gucci or Versace has 10 buyers, right? And who buy all of the bags, let's just say hypothetically. Now, those 10 buyers will sell it to another 100 buyers. Now, do you actually know who the end customer is? And can you trace the provenance for it? This is super, super important. And it's basically, how do you attach identity? And the brands can turn around and understand who the true customer are. Today, hey, Gabriel,
yes.
Can you hear me? Okay, so today, the brands and everybody in the Web 2.0 world are working on social media platforms, whether it's Instagram or Facebook or 10,000 other ones, who have that repository.
Not today.
Hey, Gabriel.
Bobby?
Yep, I'm back. I can hear you now.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Sorry with the Wi-Fi here; it's a little slow, but I'm back. So tracking of the provenance is not possible for older tickets, but now you're able to do it with the current Fellaz, implementation, or is that the vision, or?
Yeah, so absolutely. So I think there's a bigger vision that above and beyond that I'm trying to address, that goes not only to tickets, but also to assets, right? So I'm sure part of the audience is, they're brand owners and they're thinking about, how does the asset move? How do so I can truly understand it, so I can truly understand, what is my demographic? They can understand, hey, should I do a second line, with a, I don't know, emporium money, but just better data, right? And just, I don't need to know who it is. I just need to understand that movement. So I think, with ticketing, it's really early days. So let me give you an example. For example, $100 ticket in the US, if you have to get it issued, and we've been talking to some of the leading people in the world, the cost of the ticket is $10. Now you turn around and you say, really? Printing a ticket, putting a QR code on it is $10? No, that's not what it's all about. It's not the printing of the ticket. It's, hey, I have certain distribution channels. So because I have these distribution channels, you pay me $10 and I'm going to do this. The actual cost of a ticket is not, printing a ticket is not $10.
Right. No, it can't be. What is with the fees? Make 0 cents, 0 cents, and they don't go to the artist, by the way.
Of course, and neither does the data.
No. So Fellaz is effectively solving for that, putting a Web3 angle on it. It's not really Web3, it's Web3 plus Web2, so it's Web5, and it's layer 4.
No, we call it either Web5 or Web 2.5. So you pick.
But Web 2.5 plus Web 2.5 equals Web 5.
There
So,
you go.
okay, so I think we envision it, we see it, right? Like we see at least what we can see on this current horizon. Thinking at it from a Fellaz landscape, from a Fellaz point of view, 10 years out, 15 years out, where are we? Like, you know, and I'll give you a little example. I went to a Red Hot Chili Peppers concert 2 months ago in Miami. Ticket experience was actually very different from what I was used to from a Ticketmaster experience. They kind of figured out the barcode scanning. They figured out only one person could do this, but it was still expensive. And then after the event, there was nothing that was, I would say, from a loyalty perspective, embedded into the software. And me doing, I mean, I did concerts, right? When I, 15 years ago, I did the Kanye West concert in Miami. And you know, my big question is, there's been small changes, but this is a big monumental change you're talking about. Is this going to move at the speed of, you know, 10 to 15 years from now? It's going to be totally different from what we see today, or is it going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years? You know, we're in a crypto winter, we're in this, but I know you guys are building, right? So it doesn't matter.
It's nothing about crypto winter, et cetera. These are existing businesses that have certain margins that are built in. So if it's a $10 ticket, if I can, you know, if I don't use Android and I use an Apple, or if I don't use a centralized ticketing system and I use a decentralized NFT ticketing system, I'm bringing the cost down from $10 to $2, right? There's an $8 saving. That's the business and the approach that we take, right? So at the short term, this is going to be absolutely amazing. And I'll give you an example. In the last 3 months, so for example, we co-hosted NBA's first game with Rakuten at Saitama, right? Just this last weekend. We have so we did this to the halftime show. Now we're doing the Ultra Music Festival, which we also hosted in Korea.
Miami.
And we're taking a stake in the parent company. So we really want to be their partners. So this is both in terms of ticketing and also the metaverse and the offline, the online concerts, right? So this is where it starts, right? But I think you hit on a very important point. Where does it go in 10 to 15 years? And I was just alluding to that before, which is identity and a social graph. So the identity piece is that who are you? And, you know, we can always balance between privacy and discoverability, right? So let's say I can give you a solution where you're still private and your credentials are held privately, but it's still attributable to something.
Yep.
And the social graph, it's like, oh, Gabriel played first person shooter game for 1,000 hours. He played FIFA for 500. You know, he goes to, you know, what did I say? Cyndi Lauper's concerts for like, you know, 500 hours. Right? So that's
boots, you know, I like kinky boots. So there we go. Broadway shows.
I mean, so, you know, I'm not saying this.
Jay and Bobby. Oh, it's got my friend's graph in there.
Right. And then all of a sudden, imagine in a world, in today's world, and I'm simplifying this, that whether I was on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, or any other social media platform, I truly own my connections. Today, I do not own my connections. Now, listen, when you go to Facebook, and we've heard this 10,000 times before, they run an advertising model on us. We know that. But the day, whether even I have 1 connection or 5,000 connections, the day I either get off Twitter or Facebook or they kick me off for some reason, that asset is gone.
Yeah.
Right. So how do I create an identity and a network that I can transport anywhere with a certain credential?
Fellas. I mean, that's the future. Because think about
Fellaz is just a use case. It's a use case on the top side. On the use case, we went down 1 level and said, oh, let's do ticketing. Then we went down another level. Now we're talking about identity and layer 3, layer 2 kind of discussions. But what we've also done personally at Bridgeport is we've, I don't know if you know Polkadot.
Of course, of course.
Right? Polkadot was started by Gavin Wood. He was the CTO. He's the creator of the Ethereum virtual machine. And
one of our other, not to interrupt, one of our other sponsors, Public Pressure, they're backed by Gavin and Polkadot. So we'll have to connect you guys. So
that's great. So on the 22nd parachain, we actually saw an opportunity a few months ago. We're known as Anonymous 2055. And by the way, Gabriel, this is the first time I'm admitting this in a public forums, right? Yeah. So we're actually the purchasers of the 22nd parachain. What we're doing is actually building the infrastructure to, first of all, allow, and we believe the multi-chain infrastructure will be superior to the EVM infrastructure. We're now solving that for gaming, looking at low latency, high frequency. But more importantly, we need to solve things around identity. So, for example, like if I play a game, I shouldn't lose my assets from version 1 to version 2. I should be able to transport my credentials from version 1 to version 2, or for that matter, any type of game, right? The applications are massive. And I think the brands will start looking at.
I'm so excited about this. Like, 'cause not only, I'm also intimately aware and involved, as an advisor. At least I hope, right? I don't know if that check cleared yet, but it's so exciting, and we have an insane network of gaming companies here today that I know are listening to our current conversation, and my question is from the identity side. And sorry, I'm interrupting a little bit because we're talking about the parachain and this insane opportunity that you guys have, I don't want to say stumbled upon. That is not the word. It's that you were looking for this opportunity and you knew exactly what you were looking for, and you were lucky to be able to get it at the time that you did, put a lot of hard work in it. But from the identity side and from the gaming angle, how do you see that being put into use, with what you guys have built?
All right, so I'm going to say, no. So what we're building, and I'll tell you I'm going to announce what we're going to be showcasing to the world in about a month or a month and a half. But more importantly, you've now come on a point of identity. So when I look at identity in this decentralized blockchain world, I think about privacy. So everybody till date in the crypto world wants to be private, right? I'm anonymous, this. But at the same time, you want to be discoverable, because we're talking about future of work, right? And people like giving you credit as an influencer, or you're a Twitch commentator or Twitch presenter, right? So now let's think of it from that perspective. I think what's really important is that even till date, because we're using like MetaMask wallets or pseudo-anonymous wallets, for people who are not crypto native, it's very difficult to onboard somebody. And it's
really hard,
right?
This is the same conversation we had last year about NFTs and onboarding, and I want to hear it's getting easier, because this is where I feel like
it is getting easier. And then it comes on, because you have like 20 words. I gotta control that, and my dog ate my homework, something happens. And if you have non-crypto native people, I think it's a safe assumption to make that 90% will lose their seed phrases and hacking will happen, right?
I'm sure you and I have lost 1 or 2 seed phrases in the history of our crypto.
We have. So then in this decentralized anonymous world, how do you create a model of social recoverability of wallets? So, for example, Gabriel lost his wallet, but I know Gabriel. So how do you actually construct a framework?
Whoa, okay. like a connecting the dots of a
How do you
matrix.
connect it?
So I
Right,
know Bobby, I know Jay, I know this guy. They can
yeah,
come
but
together.
so let's say, but now here comes the problem. The first problem we ran into. 5 of Gabriel's friends all got together, and of course, by the way, this is a publicly known. Gabriel has about $1 billion in his crypto wallet. So
Oh, yeah.
we all became bad actors, and we want to take his money. So how do we do that? So how do you actually create a decentralized, honest voting mechanism in order to enable it? So these are very, how would I say, esoteric, or that may sound a little boring concepts, but these boring concepts at the infrastructure level are going to create the basis of which industries are going to be built on, but also more importantly, how our respective children or grandchildren are actually going to make money, because just the framework is changing.
It's all changing. I mean, it absolutely is changing. We see it globally. In conversations we had today was changing of the world of agriculture, changing of the world, discussing the metaverse, gaming, dating, et cetera. It's happening and it's moving along, both from a sustainability perspective, but also from, I think, a lifestyle perspective. We have time for one more question or a couple of more comments. I have one question from the audience. So I'm going to take one of those, and then I want to get into some closing thoughts here. We had such an amazing conversation last year, and this year it's an incredible conversation. I apologize about some of the Wi-Fi issues and the video connection. I will say, even though it's Techtalia, it's tech in Italy. So we actually didn't have Wi-Fi at the venue. So
Speaking of which, I have to tell you this. So, in Silicon Valley, right? So there's 2 groups of people who are number one in the whole technology world from mathematics and a coding perspective. It's the Indians and the Italians. Okay, so let's just get that very clear. All right, these dudes that both, Indian, Italians, both with an eye, they know what's going on.
Yep. So it's Marconi and Gandhi. Put them together.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
conversation. You and me, Marconi and Gandhi, and we have to find a Jewish.
It's it's Marconi and Ramanujan, but it's okay. It's still there.
Okay, so here's the audience question. Let's say, and I'm going to read it here. They sent me a text on it. Will I be able to use Fellaz in a fan club experience? And in that fan club experience, can I trade my tickets and earn money?
Yeah, absolutely.
Easy question.
Yeah, so I don't understand from a fan club experience, but the whole idea of the NFT ticketing was creating a digital footprint that you were there. And of course, is trying to create a secondary value for that. We want to create a marketplace for that. And of course, make that available in OpenSea and a variety of these places, right? So that's an absolute yes.
Awesome. So final comments here. What are we going to talk about next year? And okay, what are we going to talk about next year? And you guys need to be here, because I know Formula One is in Singapore. We got Formula One in Italy. We're here at Acci. They invited all of our sponsors next year to come to Monza. So I don't know if you guys want to join.
I promise not to race next year. I've just retired.
So, where will we be next year? What are we going to be talking about next year? So last year was NFTs. And identity.
To me, it's very, very clear, and where this world's going, it's the amount of interest that we're getting from institutions, right? What I would call traditional institutions, we're looking to transform. 3 years ago, they were flirting with the idea of NFTs and blockchain. Last year, they did it. This year, some broke up, some went, moved in together. But I think next year is going to be the telling case, because what we are really looking at is that we're looking at addressing infrastructure layer issues, right? I actually met somebody amazing where I've just seen Namura as a global institutional bank today starting Laser Digital. I mean, it's the first foray that I've seen in a bold manner that they're doing this. So what you're seeing is that the metaverse is clearly on anybody who's in retail, because they realize, well, it's another way to do a WordPress 2.0 site. I'm just giving a 3.0 walking around experience with voice. I mean, let's just simplify it. Let's not use big words like, hey, is it cool? But also what you have to see is the behaviors of the younger generation and how they want to interact, right? So I think some of these things, listen, markets are markets. And I think when markets are bad, there's certain companies that continue to invest in innovation, and certain companies, and I've been in private equity for a long time, certain companies say, hey, no more R&D, no more none of this. But I think the companies that will survive are going to be who are continuing to innovate, because it's not about us. We're done. We're not the customer anymore, right? We're already there where we are. We're creating the infrastructure. We're done.
It's true.
Right?
It's true.
It's unfortunately the actual customer is probably not even at this conference, and they behave and interact in a different manner.
You're right.
So,
you're right. Everywhere from Discord to Telegram to TikTok to things that we don't even know exist yet because they have not hit our radar. Maybe like Be Real. I don't know. So it's, I mean, it's fascinating. So Bobby, thank you so much. We really, really appreciate the support of both Bridgeport and Fellaz. It's 2 years in a row on Bridgeport side. Hopefully next year, Fellaz be 2 years in a row, and Bridgeport 3 years in a row. We will make sure next year to not have any issues with the Zoom. Last year, it was perfect. So again, I apologize. We're going to edit this video as well, so we'll be able to share to the world. And we had, over 100 plus people outside listening to it. And I really, really want to thank you.
Thank you, Gabriel. And I'm sorry I wasn't here. I was participating in the Formula One, but next year I'm there with you and with the team.
Ciao, grazie mille, Bobby, and we will talk soon.
Ciao.